Good morning and welcome to IGTV. You're watching the early morning call on Tuesday, the 19th of September. Well, coming up on today's programme, no reaction to minutes from the Royal Bank of Australia, with investors already absorbed by the Federal Open Market Committee in the US. And it's a big day for UK retailers, with earnings from Ocado and Kingfisher giving us an insight into consumer spending. And Instacart IPO, an initial public offering price is set at $30 per share. That's the initial offering price at the top of the range announced last week for the grocery delivery company. Well, let's start by taking a look at volatility now at the VIX chart to see how things are looking this morning. Well, you can see volatility has risen today from its low on Monday, currently at around 1568, as investors position themselves, of course, ahead of the Federal Reserve rate decision tomorrow night, in which rates are expected to be held at 5.5%. Now, with 13 minutes as well to go roughly until the European markets open, let's have a look at how things are looking pre-market across Europe. Well, first of all, let's take a quick look at the FTSE 100. Now, that's expected to open. Well, at the moment, it's 0.03% in the red. And then with the CAC 40 in Paris, that's also down 0.46% roughly, and the DAX in Germany also in the red, down 0.25%. So again, poised for a lower open across Europe, a cautious start as well ahead of central bank rate decisions from the Fed and Bank of England as well this week. Well, how about things in Asia overnight? Well, the Chinese stock markets were unsettled due to the country's shaky property sector. China's central bank loan prime rate decision will be watched as well later this week, when further cuts may help stabilize the markets. Well, the Nikkei 225 is down 1.07%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng down 0.20%, and the S&P ASX 200 in Australia down 0.42%. And how about things on Wall Street? Well, Wall Street's three major indices ended marginally higher to start the week ahead of major central bank decisions. Oh, sorry, a mixed close, actually. It was the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 1.20%, the S&P 500 up 0.22%, and the Nasdaq, the tech-heavy Nasdaq, was down 0.34%. So let's just have a look as well. Actually, one other thing to mention is one stock to mention in yesterday's session. Nokia shares rose 33% after it announced the appointment of Mary Shen, a former General Motors executive, as its new COO. Keep an eye also on the US automotive sector. The United Auto Workers Union warned that more plants would join the strike as no progress was made in talks with Ford, GM and Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler. Well, let's just have a look at how things are looking in the US early trade. So let's just pull up some of the indices here. So the S&P 500 set for a lower open, as well as the Nasdaq and also the Dow Jones. So also opening in the red today. Well, moving on, RBA minutes show that Governor Philip Lowe and the board considered a 25 basis point hike in interest rates before eventually deciding to hold the benchmark cash rate unchanged at 4.1%, as they considered that the effects of a tightening cycle have yet to be felt. Well, he said members recognise the value of allowing more time to see the full effects of tightening of monetary policy since May 2022, given the lag in the transmission of policy through the economy. Well, there was no reaction on the currency market this morning. Clearly, the Fed decision is what preoccupies the market at the moment. Well, this was the final meeting chaired by Governor Philip Lowe. Former Deputy Governor Michelle Bullock began her first day in the top role on Monday. Well, moving on, economists are expecting the Bank of England to raise interest rates again by another quarter point to 5.5% at its meeting on Thursday in a further bid to tame inflation. Well, it would take the cost of borrowing to its highest level since early 2008. However, giving evidence to MPs this month, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey and his deputy agreed that interest rates were much nearer the top of the cycle. Well, the move would follow a similar move by the European Central Bank last week and will be closely watched by the US Federal Reserve ahead of their rate decision too. Earlier, IG's Angeline Ong caught up with LSEG's Dewey John, Lippo's head of research for the UK and Ireland. She asked him if he was expecting any surprises from the Bank of England, and here's what he had to say.
Well, always expect the unexpected, but not in this case, I don't think. I think it's likely to be in line with consensus, 25 basis increase. The reason for that is the bank is itself in a bit of a bind and has to be seen to do something, I suspect, even though that something may be the wrong thing. There's a well-known quote from Ben Bernanke, of course, it says that when the central bank's job is to take the punch bowl away before the party gets started. The problem this time, of course, is there is no real party. That on the flip side, we've got sticky inflation that's persisted longer than anybody's expected, that the bank has to be seen to trying to choke off.
Well, in the US, Americans are starting to see some relief at the till when it comes to their food bills. But what's in store for Canadians? Well, Canada's latest consumer price index data is released at 1:30 p.m. and it's expected to show persistent inflation. Headline CPI growth is expected to accelerate to 3.8% in August year over year, while core CPI is expected to rise 3.5% year over year. Well, moving on to currencies now, and let's have a quick look. Well, the pound US dollar is continuing with its struggle to register any meaningful recovery from a multi-month low. Expectations that the Bank of England is nearing the end of its rate cycle hike act as a headwind for the pair. Well, the pair remains confined in a range below the 1.2400 mark during the Asian session this morning. And meanwhile, if we just switch over to the euro US dollar chart, and the pair has snapped a two-day winning streak, trading low around 1.068, down 0.09%. And that was also during the Asian session as well today around that level. The pair is facing downward pressure due to the market caution as well, likely ahead of the US Federal Reserve's policy decision too. So let's move on now to UK retail, because there's quite a few earnings and trading releases that have been announced to give you further insight into how consumer spending is going and how much inflation is hurting disposable income. So let's start with Kingfisher. Watch out for its stock this morning because the owner of B&Q and Screwfix has cut its full-year profit forecast. For the first half of the year, the group posted an operating loss of £19 million. And meanwhile, revenue was in line with expectations, coming in at £6.88 billion in line with expectations. However, as I said, it's cut its full year profit forecast. Well, if we have a quick look at the Kingfisher stock chart here, let's just see how it's getting on. So with the Kingfisher Home Improvement, well, the Home Improvement Company stock, it's gained about 1% since the start of the year, but that is, of course, very likely to change at the open. Now, moving on to Ocado and its latest results. It's looking better for Ocado this morning, who has released its trading statement for the third quarter. Well, Ocado Retail maintains its full-year profit outlook after reporting a 7.2% rise in third quarter revenue. The number of active customers in the period also rose by 1.5% compared to Q3 last year. And if we have a quick look at the Ocado price chart here to see how its stock has performed. Well, since the start, its shares were up 7% on Monday, but since the start of 2023, its stock has gained about 32%, despite reporting in July as well that pre-tax losses had widened to £289 million, despite its retail arm as well, a joint venture with M&S growing 5% to £1.17 billion and returning profit as well during the second quarter. Well, moving on as well to other corporate news today, and look out for British Land shares at the open as it raises its retail park estimated rental value growth outlook for the fiscal year 2024 to 3% to 5%. Now, also, TUI, well, the travel company has confirmed its full year outlook for the 2023 financial year, citing strong bookings in the summer. Well, TUI's summer bookings for 2023 were at 13.7 million, and it's up 5% over the previous summer session. Well, forward bookings are up 15% against winter of 2022 and 2023. Well, let's talk about IPOs following in the footsteps of Arm. Instacart shares will start trading this afternoon on the New York Stock Exchange. And in the wake of the success of Arm's debut, it boosted its initial range by about 7%. Well, Instacart has priced its shares at $30 a share at the top end of the $28 to $30 range it gave investors last week. Well, $30 per share values this group at $8.3 billion on a fully diluted basis. The group stock is worth $10.2 billion. Well, Instacart will float 8% of its stock and will raise about $660 million. Okay, well, let's have a quick look at precious metals, and let's just have a quick look at gold, spot gold this morning. It's actually trading about 0.1%. 1.8% lower. And in the run up to the Fed meeting, it has gained, however, you can see since Thursday overall, perhaps a sign of hope that we'll get a softer outcome than expected from the Federal Reserve. And meanwhile, in commodities, and let's see how US crude, WTI and Brent are performing this morning. So first of all, let's take a look at the US crude oil price chart, and we can see again it's extended gains again today. WTI is up 0.84%, trading around that $91 a barrel level, and then again Brent as well, also trading higher and up to $94 a barrel. Interestingly, analysts and economists have been predicting that we could see both Brent and WTI reaching $100 a barrel before the end of the year. And Thursday as well, both, as I said, as well, the other thing to consider is what's supporting these oil prices at the moment as well is the OPEC plus cuts and concerns that those cuts are going to be deepened even further, fundamentally speaking. And of course, China's latest stimulus as well, those measures have also added to the bullish sentiment among traders. Well, that's all we've got time for this morning on IGTV. It's early morning call. Thank you very much for watching, and do tune in this afternoon for our Look Ahead programme and Beat the Street with IG's Angeline Ong.